You were taking some spring visits.
I was.
Even though it's not quite spring. Still, you're going to see teams practice over the course of the next month, roughly, right before the spring games happen in April?
About the third week in April, I'll be done.
So you got to go see the Wisconsin Badgers. Let's remind everyone where we were the last time we checked in with the Wisconsin Badgers. And basically, they finished last year 9-4 overall, 6-2 in conference play. They played on January 1st in the Capital One Bowl. Got a replacement pen. Thank you very much. That was a loss, their fourth straight loss in a bowl game. And, of course, they had that great rushing tandem of Gordon and White. So that's when we last saw them on January 1st. That's where they were. From what you saw in watching a practice, what'd you notice?
Well, they've lost 26 seniors, as we know. I mean, this is a team that's in transition. I would say this is a team that's being rebuilt. 3 offensive linemen are out for the spring. And so that's not that unusual, but it complicates things a little bit. One thing it does is Michael Dieter, Stanley, is he's a early enrollee. He's playing with the first team.
Already?
Already. He's took every rep with the first team offense yesterday at practice. Instead of getting ready for his prom, he's getting a bunch of reps with the first Wisconsin offense. And so they're banged up a little bit in the offensive line. I would say that as it looks like it's coming together, I think this is going to be the same story. They're going to be able to run the football. I mean, they're legitimately will have an offense that can run it. But again, I think the pass game is going to be a challenge. I think the 30 defense, you see Melvin Gordon here, I mean, he looked in top condition. He looked great. Obviously, he's not going to get hit a bunch in the spring. You don't do that to a running back because you only get a certain amount of tackles. They have to develop some at wide receiver. Defensively, they're ahead of the offense. And that's pretty common. They've got to figure out some guys in the secondary. I thought Warren Herring, the nose guard, had a great practice. And so they'll be fine on defense. I think the best way to say it is their defense will complement very nicely on offense that can run the ball. They've got to be able to throw it a little bit better than they threw it last year and the way they looked yesterday throwing the ball.
There's no question about that. The one challenge in college football is how do you replace great players? And so here's the good news for Wisconsin. Flash Gordon is back. He's a young guy, has another year, ran for 1,600 yards last year. He will be dynamic. I think he'll compete for a Heisman Trophy. So you know you can control the line of scrimmage, running the football effectively. Those 3 linemen will be back in the fall, and that's good news for Wisconsin. But you're right, you have to replace your top wide receiver. How do you do that with an offense that already struggled at times? Outside of that game at Ohio State where you saw a better passing game, they really struggled through the year, and then they fell flat the last 2 games in this football season. So their quarterback, Joel, has to step up this year. He has to be big for them. He has to make plays. Now, they're not a team that's going to throw the ball 35 times. But when they do throw it, when it's play action time, especially in the red zone, he has to be efficient. He has to make good decisions, and he has to put them in good position because they can run the ball so well. And I think the 3-4 defense plays well to their strong suit, and I think they'll be fine moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing I should mention, DJ Gillens, the early enrollee quarterback, who's the dual threat guy, and they're using him in that way. He's got great presence. He's a student of the game. There were some audibles he made. You know, he hasn't been on campus all that long. And the other thing you have to remember, now that we're East and West, I mean, if you can run the ball in the West, you have a chance. I've seen 3 teams in the West. I've seen Wisconsin in the West, Minnesota in the West. They both can run, struggle in the pass. Northwestern is the opposite. Looks like they're going to be able to throw the ball, but not necessarily be able to run the ball.
Joel Stave did throw for a good amount of touchdowns last year, especially historically for Wisconsin, but he also did have an awful lot of picks. In fact, he was tied for the most in the Big Ten in terms of interceptions thrown.